are locked into the Cowbell Kingdom podcast, frontline coverage of the Sacramento Kings. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Santiago and James Ham.
Welcome to the Cowbell Kingdom podcast. I am James Ham, flying solo. My partner, Jonathan Santiago, is lost in the sweltering heat of Las Vegas. I think he's on a walkabout at this point, trying to find himself. But we are joined by a very special guest. Again, one of my favorite guests to bring on the show, Mr. Michael Malone, head coach of the Sacramento Kings. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing well, James. Thanks for having me on today.
You know, I love watching you guys celebrate that Summer League title, watching you pop the sparkling water and spray it all over and dancing around. What was it like for you to have that experience with that young team, and what does it mean for your program, what you're trying to build in Sacramento, to have something, even if it is just a Summer League title, but some winning?
Well, I think it's important, that change has to start somewhere, and when I talk about change being, from a losing culture, a team that's been mired in the lottery for so many years, to becoming a team that wins and expects to win. Obviously it's a very small step in the right direction. There's a big difference between Summer League and the regular season. We all realize that, but, for Ray, for Ben, for Quincy, for Nick, and even Derek Williams, who was there briefly, for those guys to participate in that, I think is only going to bode well for their futures, and more importantly for us as a team. And it was a lot of fun, to be in that locker room. And, we got there on July 6th, and we had 2 days for a week, and we put a lot of hard work into that, the players, the coaches, and for us to be there that long and to win the championship, to celebrate with our guys in the locker room. You had the entire coaching staff, you had our ownership group in there, Vivek, Andy Miller, Chris Kelly, a lot of guys in there celebrating and a part of it. So it was a lot of fun. Now, we all realize we still have a lot of work to do, but definitely a positive step in the right direction.
You talk about a positive step, and there were a lot of your young players there. Your young core was there. What are your initial takeaways for what this can mean for a group, especially such a young group? Because you do have veterans on this team, but you brought sort of a suitcase full of players with some NBA experience to this tournament.
Yeah, first off, you go back to the championship game, in the game that Ray McCallum has and earns the MVP trophy. And anytime you can be in a competitive environment, a championship game setting, playing in front of a packed house, and to play very well, to win it all, and then for Ray to have the game that he had, 29 points, taking over, hitting some big shots down the stretch. Ben McLemore, who struggled for the first three quarters of that game, and the fourth quarter got going and came up with some big baskets. Quincy Acey, who was the heart and soul of that Summer League team, just with how hard he played, the energy, enthusiasm that he brought every single night. And then for a young guy like Nick Stauska said to me, he goes, "Wow, what a great way to kind of get your feet wet with the NBA, coming to Summer League and winning it all." So I think he's really excited about it as well. So, for all four of those guys, and then you have other guys like Jared Cunningham, who was with us towards the end of the year, and Jared had some good moments. You have Rashard James, who's a player with that D-League team up in Reno, who, within 1 year has grown so much as a player, and he had a great Summer League for us. A young kid like Eric Moreland, who a lot of people didn't know a whole lot about. He's our energizer bunny. He comes in the game and changes the complexion of the game just by his energy and effort and multiple effort type plays. So I think it's definitely a confidence builder for all of our young guys, and this is only going to help them moving forward the remainder of the summer and into training camp and hopefully into the regular season.
Coach, you didn't have a single All-NBA Summer League selection, first or second team, but you guys win the title. It seemed like this team specifically had an identity that you've been pushing for a long time. You guys won on defense. I think you held, in the final game, you held the Houston Rockets to 30% shooting. You held them to 20% shooting from behind the arc, which has always been an issue with your team and some of these young players that you did bring. What does it mean for you to see that defensive identity sort of develop in Summer League?
Well, I think it just it reinforces it for me. 24 teams in Vegas at Summer League, and where I think we finished 13th in scoring in Summer League, but we had the best defense, as you mentioned. We held our opponents to 35% from the field. We held them to, I think, around 25 from the three-point line, which is terrific defense. And we shot the ball very well. We led Summer League in field goal percentage at 47%, and we were second in three-point percentage. So when you defend at a high level and you are efficient on offense and you make shots, you're going to be very hard to beat. And everybody talks about the San Antonio Spurs and what an offensive system and how unselfish they played, and they're right. But what often gets overlooked is how good of a defensive team they were. They were a top 5 defensive team in the NBA this year, and then they had the best three-point shooting team and the number 1 team in assists per game. So we're trying to emulate a lot of what the Spurs do. Why wouldn't you when they've had so much success? But Summer League was great to see us kind of reinforce our identity of being a team that defends, rebounds, runs with discipline when those opportunities are there, and then value and shares the basketball. And so the fact that we were able to defend, I don't think the Rockets didn't score over 20 points in any of the 4 quarters in the final. So it just reinforces it to me, our staff, our whole group, and to our players that you're going to have off nights offensively. You may turn the ball over offensively, but if your defense is your anchor, you're going to be in a lot of games, and you're going to win a lot more games than not.
Coach, you talked about Quincy Acey being the heart and soul of this team, which you could see from the outside. There was no question he was the heart and soul. But you also had Eric Moreland coming out of Oregon State, really unheralded, but he came in and he brought something different. Neither of those 2 players are guaranteed even an invite to training camp with you guys, but how much do you need players like that who come in, who are willing to accept a role, who bring something different than what you already have?
Well, I think it's important. When you put together a team, it's like a puzzle, and you have to have pieces that fit and complement each other. And you can't have all pieces that want to score the ball or dribble the ball. You need to have guys that can play off of each other and bring out the best in each other. In Quincy, you have a guy, even when he played for us last year, who every time he went in the game, he brought tremendous energy, defended, rebounded, ran the floor, set good screens. And what most people didn't see is that every day in practice, he was the same player, which is very important to have guys that not only help you in the games, but also help out your practices. Practice is where we have to develop our habits and develop the proper habits. Then you speak about a young kid in Eric Moreland. He impresses us in his draft workout. We're fortunate to get him on our Summer League roster, and we throw him out there, and here's a kid that, he winds up averaging close to 9 rebounds a game in 19 minutes of play, which is amazing. 9 rebounds and almost 3 blocks per game. So he wasn't scoring the ball for us, but you can't have 5 scorers. You need guys that are willing to accept their role and be defenders, be rebounders, be screeners, help their teammates out. And I think both Quincy and Eric really embody those 2, characteristics.
Coach, you brought in Nick Stauskas and Ben McLemore. You actually played them alongside each other a lot. I'm sure that you envision some 3-guard sets this season if this is a roster that you walk in to the regular season with, including those 2. But Stauskas in particular, he seems like a guy that needs something different than what you had in your Summer League team. He is going to thrive with a guy like DeMarcus Cousins who can kick out to him for wide open shots. He's going to thrive next to a guy like Rudy Gay. Can you talk about what you saw out of Stauskas here in this short window of opportunity that you had with him?
Well, I think it's a great point by you. We were fortunate, and we had invited as many of our veteran players to come to camp and visit with us while in Vegas as we're willing to. DeMarcus Cousins, he was there for the whole week of 2-a-days prior to us playing a game. Rudy Gay stopped in. Carl Landry was there, Reggie Evans. So we had a lot of guys come through town. And in the practices where Nick was playing with DeMarcus, you could see what you mentioned, James, in regards to DeMarcus is going to draw a double team. Rudy Gay is going to draw a double team. He's going to attract the crowd. And that was one of our weaknesses last year, is that we were not able to make the defense pay often enough. When you finish 27th in the league in three-point percentage, you become a lot easier to guard. So watching Nick play alongside DeMarcus and with DeMarcus, I think DeMarcus got a big smile on his face, because when he was kicking that ball out and Nick was knocking down shots, that's exactly what we were looking for when we drafted him, obviously. But I think Nick is much more than just a shooter or a guy that can space the floor for DeMarcus and Rudy. I think he showed flashes of it during Summer League. He's a guy who has the ability to handle, create his own shot a little bit right now, and he can definitely play pick and rolls and has a very good feel for the game offensively. So he's only going to get better. This first NBA experience kind of let him know what to expect. And obviously, once the real season starts, it's even going to be that much more demanding. And I think he understands that.
You know, be it nerves or be it like an attitude that he brought into this, it seemed like Ben McLemore was a lot more aggressive, especially in the first two games. That aggressiveness led to a lot of turnovers. I think he had 13 turnovers in the first two games. But he slowly progressed from there, and he actually had some really, really nice moments where he was more aggressive going to the hole. He, was confident with his shot. He had some really nice passes, although it didn't translate to assists. How is he coming along for you as a prospect? And I guess, where do you see him and Stauskas this coming season? Are they going to have a position battle from day one?
Well, I think your first point is spot on. I think Ben came into Summer League trying to showcase and prove to people that he's been working hard in his game. And he came out that first game against San Antonio, our one loss of Summer League. He doesn't shoot the ball well, 2 for 8, and he has 8 turnovers. A lot of that was because he was trying to do too much too quick. And all we kept on telling him was slow down. Right? You never want to rush on offense. Be quick, but don't rush. Take what the defense gives you. If you don't have shot, make a play for a teammate. But he was really pressing. And I think part of that is also the fact that we drafted Nick Stauskas. And maybe in his mind, he was saying, I got to show what I can do. And I think once we realized that, we can play together. The back likes to talk about positionless basketball quite a bit. Even in the finals, we have 4 smalls out there. Obviously it's only Summer League, but you see that in regular season and even in playoff NBA games where teams go small and there's 5 guys that can play basketball. And I think once Ben slowed down, James, he really became a much more efficient player. As you talked about his turnovers, he had 27 for the tournament, and 13 of those came in the first 2 games. So obviously the last 5 games he really settled down, valued the ball at a much higher rate, and was making much better decisions with the basketball. So for him, it's just slowing down, not trying to do too much. But Ben and Nick can play together, as was proven during Summer League. And at times, obviously, one will be on the floor and one won't be on the floor. I look forward to September and into October, seeing both of those guys battle and help each other become better players. Competition's healthy. The cream will rise to the top, but Nick's going to help Ben become a better player, and Ben is going to help Nick become a better player. Therefore, the Kings will be better off for that competition. So they'll play together at times, but, we'll also have a healthy competition, which I'm looking forward to.
All right, we are speaking to Michael Malone, head coach of the Sacramento Kings, here on the Cowbell Kingdom podcast. Coach, you brought in, right at the last second, you brought in Tyrone Corbin. Now, there was a lot of talk about different assistant coaches that might be coming to Sacramento that you guys might be kicking tires on, like Alvin Gentry, Kurt Rambis. There are all these different coaches that were floating around. What made Tyrone Corbin the right guy to fill that spot on your bench as your lead assistant?
Well, my relationship with Tyrone goes back to us working together in New York years ago when Scott Layden was a GM. And that 1 year together, we got to be pretty close, have maintained a relationship over the years. Obviously, I look at him as a guy that played 16 years in the NBA, and while doing so, played for some great coaches, and Jerry Sloan, Pat Riley, Leonard Wilkins, to name a few. Then he has a chance to work under Jerry Sloan, and then obviously take over as a head coach in Utah, where he led that team to 2 500-plus seasons, as well as 1 playoff berth. I look at Tyrone as a guy that would not only help me and the coaching staff, but the entire organization. He has no ego. He's a hard worker. He's very knowledgeable, and he's going to be a great extension for me. And now I have a guy on my bench that has the experience of being a head coach, has been in the same seat as I've been, and I can kind of go to him and share my worries or concerns, and he can kind of give me his input, or I can draw from his experiences. So I think it's a home run all the way around. Now you have to remember, Tyrone missed the first 4 practices of Summer League. Chris Gent was coaching the team, and there's no doubt in my mind that if Chris Gent would have coached the team, we would have still won the championship. I think I have a quality staff, but the fact that Tyrone was able to come in such late notice and take over that team with the coaching staff and get everybody on the same page is a tremendous credit to he as well as all the other coaches and players. So I'm very excited that he's on staff, and I know he's going to help me become a much better head coach.
You know, Coach, you did bring a lot of your assistant coaches. You also brought some of the Reno Bighorns guys with you up there. How is the continuity with this team growing? And you've got a player in DeMarcus Cousins who, you know, in the past has had some, you know, transgressions, whatever you may say. But your staff itself is really built as a support staff, it seems like, for players specifically like DeMarcus. How is that working as you're going forward?
Well, in regards to the first point, you know, Joel Abelson, our head coach up in Reno, and his assistant, Ty Ellis, were both there helping out in practice and sitting behind the bench during Summer League, and it was great to have them around. I think the more we communicate with them, the more they are around with the coaching staff and the organization, that's only going to allow ourselves, the Sacramento Kings, and the Reno Bighorns to have a very good relationship. So when we do send players down or we call players up, there is that comfort level. And so I really appreciated what those two brought, and it was great having them around. You know, we are an organization that is trying to change the fortunes of years past. Obviously, we struggled this past year, 28 wins. We all want to be a lot better this coming season. That's what we strive for every single day. So we need to support each other, whether it's supporting DeMarcus Cousins and seeing how much he's grown and matured this past year. The fact that he was there all summer with our young guys, I think says a lot about him and his commitment to his team and teammates. But you know, that's what we have to do. You know, whether it's myself or my staff, Pete D'Alessandro and his staff, or the ownership group. I think you know, those three different areas: ownership, front office, and coaching staff. You have three groups that are very, very committed to winning and doing whatever it takes to do so. And we're going to support our players in all endeavors on and off the floor.
All right, Coach, I don't want to keep you all day. I know you're a busy man, but I'm going to ask you about the sort of the franchise buzzword that we've been hearing for the last week and a half, 2 weeks, and that is pace. And I know that Isaiah Thomas is gone, and Darren Collison is the new point guard for this team. You also have Ray McCallum running the point. But what exactly, when you guys are talking about pace, what is it that you're hoping to see this next year? Are we talking run and gun? What sort of pace are you looking to implement into this team?
Yeah, for me, you know, I know for myself and the coaches, you know, last year we finished 14th in the NBA in pace of play, you know, which is, you know, right around the halfway mark of the 30 teams. But I'm not a run and gun guy. I'm not a guy that would ever put pace over defense and rebounding and valuing and sharing the basketball. The big thing that sticks out to me from last season was we dribbled as a team too much, so there has to be a lot more ball movement. And the one thing I think that could really help our pace of play is our defense. That the more stops you get, the more rebounds you get, the more opportunities you have to run. So I think if we were able to improve defensively, like I hope we will, that should help our pace of play right there alone. Now, the other thing that goes with that, and we really try to stress this in Summer League as well, James, is instead of dribbling the ball up the floor all the time, look to throw the ball at what we call an advanced pass. You know, Darren Collison is ultra quick. He'll be able to push the ball with the dribble, but we are really going to encourage guys to use the advanced pass, you know, to beat teams up the floor. So look to attack before teams are able to get set defensively. In those first 6 minutes of that 24-second shot clock, you're looking for layups, you're looking for early mismatched post-ups, or you're looking for uncontested jump shots. Now, if that's not there, that's where running with discipline comes in. You have to be able to pull the ball back out and get us into an offense so we can execute at a high level, get a lot more ball movement, and get the highest percentage shot that we can. But, you know, as far as pace goes, you know, I'm not sure if there's a direct correlation, if you will, between teams that play at the highest pace and winning. But I think it's fair to say that as we become a better defensive team, we want to definitely look to attack and play quicker and score easier baskets before teams are able to set up their defense. And I think adding a guy like Darren Collison will help in that regard. And I think everybody else has to be in shape and be committed, because a lot of teams talk about running, A lot of players talk about wanting to run, but you have to be in great shape if you're going to be a running team. And the only way you can become a good running team is by defending at a high level. So, that's our hope going into the season, is that playing at a faster pace, but not at the expense of just running and gunning and taking the ball out of our net for 48 minutes. I don't think that gets you anywhere.
All right. Great stuff as always, Coach. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Thanks so much for joining us.
No problem, James. I appreciate it, buddy, and I look forward to talking to you guys again soon.
Thanks to Michael Malone for dropping by. It's always nice to get the head coach of the Sacramento Kings wanting to come on your podcast. For the second portion of this podcast, we're going to be joined by another guest, but we're not even going to call him a guest this time. We're just going to call him a co-host. Clearly, John Santiago is taking the day off, and he needed a couple of days off because he's been in Las Vegas for a long time now. It's a good thing that they have washing machines in our luxury high-rise hotel rooms in Vegas, or John would be stinky by now. I think we're pushing like 10, 11 days. But we are joined by one of our favorite guests, someone who's in all the time, and again, today, a co-host, Mr. Aaron Bruski. Aaron, how are you?
That's good. That feels like an Anchorman moment right there. And shockingly, I don't think I can handle more than 4 days in Vegas.
Man, I struggle too. Like 5, 6 days, I'm like, I want out of here now. For me, I got a family to get home to. You've got, a fiance and a dog, and we've got things to do in life. And Vegas is an escape for some, and for others, it's sort of a penitentiary.
First I want to thank the good fans in Sacramento. We just moved here full time, sometime last year, and we lost our dog. And I out to Sacramento, and all of you guys tweeted it out, and we still haven't figured out how we got our dog back. But a nice couple named Jim and Laney returned our dog to us with one of our signs that we were posting all over town, and they said that somebody brought the sign to their house, and they still don't know who it was. So thank you, Sacramento, for saving our dog.
Wow. Well, I'll say this. If they can find your dog, hopefully they will also find the murder of Matt Barnes' aunt, which I know that's something that Matt Barnes has put out on Twitter, that there is a murder on the loose and in Sacramento, and he's tweeted out pictures of the guy, hoping that the Sacramento let's call them grassroots brigade will figure out a way to find that guy as well.
So, hopefully.
Aaron Bruski's dog, Matt Barnes' aunt's killer. Those are things that Twitter has helped us with hopefully this week. So, Aaron, you did spend some time in Vegas. You got to see plenty of Sacramento Kings Summer League basketball. They win the championship. They hoist the banner. We see this massive Pellegrino celebration in the back where Malone is dancing and going nuts, and the players are having a great time. What is your takeaway? What does a Summer League championship mean, and what were your takeaways from Summer League?
I think my takeaway was that they really, 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 really wanted to win that thing. Not sure if there was a parade on J Street or not. They really needed something to take some of the messaging, the narrative nationally off of their back, because they're out there getting killed. Zach Lowe. I think Sherwood Strauss was Ethan Sherwood Strauss was out there saying this stuff, talking about it, and it's all kind of true. To what extent, is arguable. That a lot of people around the league are just kind of scratching their heads, wondering what the plan is in Sacramento. I don't know that the majority of them are really diving down deep into the details. I think they hear things like, give Rudy Gay a whole bunch of money, give Josh Smith a whole bunch of money at the same time, get rid of Isaiah Thomas and bring in Darren Collison. I think they hear the surface level details, and it causes them some panic. And I think that's the thing that I've been noticing on my Twitter account. Normally, the Sacramento Kings fans are pretty supportive of the type of work that I do, but lately they've been just kind of on edge because I've pretty much put my opinion out there that I thought the Kings should have hung on to Isaiah Thomas. There's just a lot of stress in the Kingdom nowadays, so it's interesting. It's very dynamic. I think that at Summer League, we did see some great things. I was really impressed with Ray McCallum. I was impressed with basically down the list. I thought McLemore had a good Summer League.
Once he calmed down, he was all right.
And then Stauskas was exactly as advertised. And then, Quincy Acey, I thought, added some new wrinkles to his game. So I thought from a summer league perspective, the Kings definitely had a good summer league.
You talk about the national narrative there. Let's stick with that for a second, because I got the same thing. Like, walking in the door to Las Vegas, I got a lot of like crazy eyes from media friends. And I don't know, people know this, they don't know this, I'm not sure. The media world is a very tight-knit group, and so when you go to summer league, it's like going and hanging out with your friends. It's almost like
500 of them.
yeah. But I mean, again, like Zach Lowe, I know Zach Lowe, and I had a brief conversation with him. I know a lot of these guys. We're blessed in Sacramento to have a really cool large group of national writers. We have Sam Amick, we have Scott Howard Cooper, yourself. We've got right down the street is our good friend Mark Spears. These are people that we actually know, and they're coming up to you and saying, okay, what's a skinny? And you're like, I don't know. This is a difficult thing to sort of flush out. We don't know what's going on either. We have plenty of conversations between ourselves. We have plenty of conversations with people on the inside. But the plan is something that a lot of people on the outside are just shaking their head. I think Zach Lowe captured it pretty well. It's this really strange balance between playing to win and building. So the Kings have a new stadium in 2016. We're not that far away from that. They need to get this team up and running, not just a playoff team. They need to be a playoff team going into the new stadium. And that means, this year they need to be close. Next year they need to be in the playoffs. The year after they need to be a good team playing for something. And I think that battle, that internal struggle of playing for now and playing for the future is very, very prevalent in everything that we're seeing. And it's kind of got this awkward feel to it. And, you talk about Isaiah Thomas versus Darren Collison. I think a lot of people shaking their head there. So let's just start there. We do know that you have close ties to Isaiah Thomas. How bad are the feelings hurt at this point, and how do we move forward with Darren Collison as a starting point guard?
I probably couldn't speak for the guy just in the conversations I've had with him. I think that, I don't know that he's hurt. I think there's an article on Sacktown Royalty discussing whether or not he was disrespected by the Kings. And I would just say this. There has been a constant and ongoing media focus by, just one outlet in particular, Sacramento Bee, and maybe a few other outlets, that has constantly pressed certain buttons where it's the Kings are looking for another point guard, and you've got Isaiah going for 20 and 6. The Kings ball movement is a problem, and they'll list the people that are not the problem, and maybe just list that Isaiah Thomas is the problem. This has been going on not once, not twice, but 20, 30, 40, 50 articles deep over the course of 2-3 years. So typically when a media outlet goes and attacks the player, either the coaching staff or the front office will push back a little bit and say, no, that's not the case. So it's been pretty obvious, and I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when I talk with people around the team, media, or people inside the organization, they're very straightforward. This organization does not buy Isaiah Thomas as a starter. And the narrative that's been put out there by the media, whether or not it's been forwarded by the front office, assisted by the front office, or the front office is complicit in any of this stuff, the narrative has been one that's completely undervalued Isaiah Thomas to the extent that everybody else outside of Sacramento is looking at Sacramento and saying, what are you doing, Darren Collison? Isaiah Thomas should be a guy that you want to keep on board going into the future. So to the extent that he's been disrespected as a community guy that went out there and shouldered the burden of representing a team with some what do we say, difficult personalities that might be misunderstood. He went out there and he did the front and center act at city council meetings, and he wasn't getting that same type of dap from management. If you want to call that being disrespected, I would agree with you. If you wanted to say that he's not being disrespected, I could see the angle there. But as far as like hurt feelings and this, that, and the other, I'm seeing a lot of articles about whether or not the talking about things now that he's in Phoenix and mentioning that he wanted to be wanted. Of course he wants to be wanted. And was that the reason that he wouldn't accept a qualifying offer from the Kings or their kind of $5 to $6 million offer? Of course, that's why he didn't accept that. And in terms of picking the Phoenix Suns, the interesting thing there is they're not sure about Eric Bledsoe. They're saying that they expect him to stay, and they're kind of saying all the right things to keep that situation from getting nuclear, so to speak. But they're not sure what his future is. And if he stays, they love the idea of a three-headed kind of point guard attack. And from top to bottom in that organization, they were really excited to bring on Isaiah Thomas. So the market, when LeBron and Carmelo were sitting there kind of doing their dance and holding everything up, the market was at a standstill. And my opinion is that Isaiah took the first offer that he felt was solid, being a guy that's been a minimum salary guy for 3 years in the league. I think he jumped at the first offer, and I think he could have gotten more by waiting. But when you've made that little amount of money, relatively speaking, and an organization is rolling out the red carpet for you the way that the Suns did, I think for him, he just kind of jumped at it. So
it's a great fit, though. It is.
They're a run-and-gun team.
Yeah.
And if Bledsoe goes, he steps right into the starting lineup. If Bledsoe stays, I think he plays 25 to 30 minutes at a minimum, and he could actually get up over 30 in a three-point guard attack, which is going to be must-see TV on League Pass.
Yeah, I would agree. And if I'm the Phoenix Suns at this point, I'm looking at Eric Bledsoe as almost a luxury. And if I had my choice of going out and retaining Eric Bledsoe or chasing a guy like Greg Monroe with all my cap space, knowing that Greg Monroe would fit into that system perfect and give you the big that you need, I might be inclined to go a different way just because you do have Dragic, you do have Enos, you do have, clearly you've got shooting guard options as well, but you don't have someone to really shoulder the load in the post. So, for me, when I hear Eric Bledsoe turn down 4-year, $48 million, that kind of I shake my head and I wonder what exactly, is he's not a max level player. I mean, he's had a good breakout season, but again, he only played, I think, 46 games. He missed a bunch of games due to injury. And Isaiah Thomas is going to start a bunch of games this season because even if Bledsoe does come back, there's injury concerns. Bledsoe is a guy who's had injury concerns his entire career, who does not play a full season. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll play 82 games and start all 82, but I'm going to guess that that's not going to happen. And then Isaiah Thomas will get his chance to start 15, 20 games, even if Bledsoe is there. So I see it as a good fit for him. And you know what? Everyone should be happy for him. And I know that's what the Kings have said, look, we loved him. We're really happy for him. I think this is the crux of the argument that the Kings will put forth, Aaron, and whether it's right or whether people agree with it, really their point that they'll make behind closed doors is that Isaiah Thomas can go somewhere else and be a backup. He can go to Phoenix and accept the role as a backup. Maybe he starts, but chances are he'll be a reserve. But here in Sacramento, he was never going to accept that. So if the Kings brought him back at $6-7 million and matched the deal and said, look, you're here, but we don't want you to start. Either we want, Darren Collison, or, if Collison wasn't here, we want Ray McCallum to start and you to come off the bench and supply the support. It's almost like they were worried that he was going to lead a faction of people behind the scenes who are trying to get him back into the starting role. And that's an issue.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I also think that the die was cast, maybe a year ago. When they brought in Gravis, that was kind of a planned move to change the dynamic of the team, and then we all know what happened. Isaiah outplayed Gravis, and now you have three ball handlers. Once they brought in Rudy Gay, three guys that need the ball. And there's one guy out of the three that really wasn't a part of the regime, or part of their regime, I should say. And I think looking at the whole thing going forward, what Pete and the other guys are thinking is we don't want to train these three guys to work together. Right or wrong, it's going to be easier to let Rudy handle, let DeMarcus post up, and then find a couple other guys to operate around that. Whereas Isaiah is a proven scorer in the league and the point guard who's going to bring the ball up. I think for them, they were sold on the idea that they needed to move away from this stylistic fit. Could they have made it work? I have a lot of faith in Mike Malone as a coach. He hasn't shown anything to prove otherwise. I think he could have made it work. I think, if you asked him behind closed doors, who knows? Maybe he would say he would have liked to kept Isaiah. But looking at the fit of the team, and I think what you're seeing here is the Kings kind of morphing into the post-Isaiah Thomas era, if you want to call it that, saying, okay, what's available on the market right now to replace Isaiah Thomas? Darren Carlson, let's go get him. Let's go get him immediately. No questions asked. Let's just get him in here. Now that we've done that, what are we going to do to address these other positions? Right now, when you keep Rudy Gay and you make him a cornerstone of your franchise, and that's a decision. Now, I will go back and I will kind of change my perspective on that. I was in favor of that as long as the Kings kept Isaiah. They could have let Rudy walk next year and dealt with, having more cap space, or they could have kept the three, let a couple contracts fall off the book, and figured out ways to fill in the gaps around those three guys. But, you're looking at the Rudy Gay era, the DeMarcus Cousins era. Darren Collison's going to come in and probably not shoot very much. The two shooting guards, the two young shooting guards are going to run around and kind of wreak havoc. Hopefully they can make contributions. And I think what you've seen now, the Kings are, what do we do with these set of guys? And I think the answer that they've come back with, especially as the criticism is mounted, is they're saying, okay, we're going to be a run and gun team. And that might be a good segue into talks about Omri Caspi.
Yes, definitely.
Because now they fancy themselves kind of like maybe the Houston Rockets, one dominant big man surrounded by four playmakers. So that, I think, is where they're heading with this, and it's very interesting. I'll leave it at this. Pete and the basketball people, they got their chips all in. So it's either going to work and they're going to look like geniuses, or it's not going to work and there's probably going to be hell to pay, so to speak.
Yeah, the Omri Caspi thing. So look, we'll just make sure that everybody knows. We're not sure how it's going to play out. It will all play out on Friday. Omri Caspi was, in fact, waived by the New Orleans Pelicans. He is a minimum salary player, so the Kings could actually claim him off waivers. There are rumors that the Sacramento Kings have actually made a waiver claim on Omri Caspi, which means they would pick up his salary at like slightly over $1 million. It's like 1.006, and just accept Omri onto their team. They have to clear the waiver process, though. It's a 48-hour window from the moment he was waived until everybody has the right to put in a waiver claim. The worst team gets the first claim. So if someone else below the Kings in the pecking order, which I think there are 6 teams below the Kings, or 6 teams. The Kings should have had the 7th pick, but they end up with the 8th pick, right? Or am I wrong? Yes. So anyway, so the Kings are in the hunt. There could be some other team that says, "Hey, we'll take Caspi at $1 million." That's fine. And the Kings are hoping that they'll fit him in and that he'll be a stretch 4 or a backup 3. People here in Sacramento loved Omri when he was young. I think they tired of him as he progressed in his 2 years. And of course, Caspi is part of the worst trade possibly that Jeff Petrie ever made, where he gave up Caspi and a future lottery-protected first-round pick for J.J. Hickson. The Kings still, it's been 3 years, the Kings are still locked into that lottery-protected first-round pick for another 3 years, barring them going above the top 10 and getting out of the lottery. So it's a deal that's haunted the Kings, and it's very strange. The Kings could actually get Omri Caspi back before they actually give up the pick that they gave up with him to get J.J. Hickson. And of course, J.J. Hickson lasted 4 months with the team before they waived him and couldn't find any takers, and he's bounced around since then. So yeah, I think you're right. I think Omri Caspi fits a running gun type of team. I don't know that he's great at any one thing. He's a different player than he was when he was a rookie here in Sacramento, or a second-year player. I always liked him to like a poor man's Sean Marion. He has a lightning-quick first step, and he has the ability to get off the ground extremely quick. He could have been a much better rebounder than he's turned out at the pro level. He rushes his shot in the corner. He's a 37% three-point shooter. I think he works in the right situation. Is Sacramento the right situation? I'm not sure. Again, the Kings, if they do retain him, it would be with them waiving the rights to Quincy Acee, which Acee was scheduled. He has an option for this year at the league minimum, somewhere around $900,000, and a lot of fans aren't happy about that. So,
well,
I don't know.
Interestingly, I wonder if the 20-12 game that he had against Sac last year has anything to do with this. That was his best game of the season last year.
Yeah.
He's he would be a serviceable backup at the power forward position. I don't think he can defend the three anymore. I mean, if he goes out there and tries, more power to him. I just don't think it's going to work. He's not a great 3-point shooter. At the 4 position, he's probably a good 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
He doesn't shoot for a good percentage. He shoots, he hits 42% of his shots. You're right about his rebounding. That 20-12 game showed it that he has that capability. But defensively, he doesn't steal the ball. He doesn't block shots. He's really, I think, probably a non-issue for purposes of discussing the Sacramento Kings' future. But it does speak to the mindset. And one thing that I thought was interesting, the glut of power forwards that you guys have is just, I mean, so the idea that they're going to add another one, if that's where indeed you're going to play him, to me was a little bit, like, what are these guys doing? But the thing that I thought when I watched Quincy Acee, the first thing I noticed, I was like, okay, we know what he can do, and he's not necessarily that defensive stalwart that everybody thinks he is, just because he kind of looked like Reggie Evans and kind of has that bruising game. He does get lost in the rotations. He does have lateral quickness issues, but he's a tough defensive player. He's the kind of guy you want on the floor as a role player. But then I noticed he'd added a few wrinkles to his game, and to me, I was thinking, what, this guy might start for the Kings next year, legitimately. And now we're talking about him getting waived for Omri Caspi. So that was my takeaway. Not that Quincy Acee is the greatest player, but when you're looking for guys to fit next to Rudy Gay and to fit next to DeMarcus Cousins, he almost fit the mold of what you would be looking for, almost like a poor man's version of what you might be looking for. A guy that doesn't need the ball much, can hit that little 16-foot jumper, handle a little bit, get freaky underneath and knock some guys down. So that was my initial thought. So hearing this report, it was a little bit kind of surprising.
Yeah, but you still have to consider that the Kings they do have Reggie Evans, they do have Carl Landry, they do have Derek Williams, Travis Outlaw, and Rudy Gay that can all play both forward positions. They also have one more there who DeMarcus Cousins can play the 4. List, Jason Thompson. The list of who can play the 4 is great. So
I would say this, though. If I could get rid of or cut, somehow trade or cut any of one of those other guys, AC would be the guy that I wouldn't cut. Somebody on that list is expendable. If you can give them away for dirt, in the case of some of the bad contracts, or just, drop a guy that would not be named Quincy Acee, that's the direction I would go there, because I think he does have a chance of contributing at a low cost. The guy like Carl Landry, say he gets into shape, he can be a decent NBA player. Is he worth his contract? That's another question.
Yeah, and the way I look at Caspi, for me, is that is there really much of a difference between Omri Caspi and Patrick Patterson? And I don't think that there is. Patterson has shown in small bursts that he can shoot the corner 3, but I don't. Patterson got $6 million a year in Toronto, which to me made no sense at all. And I think Caspi is right there. A very similar type player. And in this situation, Caspi knows he's a minimum contract guy. He can be waived at any times just because it's a minimum contract. If they need a roster spot, they can waive him at any time and not take that much grief. There are a lot of Caspi fans. We'll see a lot of number 18s pulled out of the closet. If he does, in fact, end up in Sacramento, there is no guarantee that that's going to happen. I think fans, they fell in love with Quincy Acee during Summer League again. And to me, I really like Quincy Acee. I know he'll land on his feet in the NBA. He will be on a roster next season. He'll probably go right back to Toronto. They loved him there. He is a great locker room guy, very quiet, very humble. He's a hard worker. But at the end of the day, he's like an 11, 12, 13 man on your bench. And if I'm the Kings and I had to waive Quincy Acey to sign a player like Eric Moreland, which we saw at Summer League, is Eric Moreland as good as Quincy Acey? The answer is no. He's not, but the fact is Eric Moreland brings a shot-blocking presence, a defensive-minded rebounder who will get you, I mean, if his per 36 is going to be like 12, 13 boards and 2.5 blocks a game at the NBA level. He's never going to play 36 minutes, especially early on, but I would rather have seen the Kings, go out and sign a guy like Eric Moreland. Now, the Kings can still go sign a guy like Eric Moreland. I mean, that's still a possibility. But again, now we're talking about another power forward, another guy, and while you're talking about that, the Kings are still chasing Josh Smith.
Right? Yeah, we didn't even talk about him.
Yeah, and again, we're talking about fit. I mean, Josh Smith is really a guy that fits. He's a guy that, like, personality-wise, who knows if he'll fit? I mean, that's like beyond a crapshoot. But as a player, if you're talking run and gun, like what we're talking about, Josh Smith fits.
Yeah, Josh Smith, talk about an enigma. One game he'll look like a world beater in one game, and then the next game you literally don't want him on the floor. I would ask every Sacramento Kings fan to go find their nearest Atlanta Hawks fan, when he was in his prime, and ask them about what the Josh Smith experience is like. And those guys have no hair left on their head. And he's in, I think, in his 11th season. And I'm pretty sure when the last time I checked, he's averaged 34 minutes per game. He has, he's got 100,000 miles on his car. So he's been around the league. Can the zebra change his spots or whatever the expression is? I don't know. Stripes, spots, whatevs. Like, can he change his game at this point? And can he do so next to two guys in DeMarcus Cousins and Rudy Gay that like to have the ball in their hand? Josh Smith is a guy that likes to have the ball in his hand. Are they going to get him to stop taking three-point shots? This guy set a record for three-point futility, I'm sure, in some respect, because he kept jacking up threes at such an alarmingly low rate. He has a free throw problem now, too, that's kind of gone underneath the radar, where at the end of the year, he could not make free throws, and it was airballing quite a few of them. So there's something going on with his shooting. Whether or not that can be corrected perhaps by Chris Gent, is unknown. He's got some knee issues. Whether or not he's the shot blocker he once was, on paper, like maybe rewind the clock 4 years ago, Josh Smith, is he the right fit next to DeMarcus Cousins and Rudy Gay? Absolutely. Take the ball out, run as fast as you can up and down the court. You got yourself your Houston Rockets kind of look-alike team. And if DeMarcus Cousins is the center that I think he is, i.e. the most dominant center in the NBA, now you're rolling. But are they going to be able to swing a deal for Josh Smith? I don't know.
Yeah, that is yet to be seen. All right, so Aaron, I don't want to keep you all day. It's been fun having you as a co-host. What is it? Let's finish with this. The Kings finish up Summer League, and of course they hoist the banner and everyone's celebrating. But you've seen the moves that they've done so far. How many win team is this in your mind? I mean, on the BS report, we heard DeMarcus Cousins say 48-50 that they'll make the playoffs, but I don't think that's realistic. What is this team in your mind at this point?
Honest answer, gun to head, 31 wins.
Wow. You got more than I do.
I felt like I was being nice when I said that. It's the Western Conference. It's really, if they played in the Eastern Conference, I would maybe jump that number up to 35, 36. I mean, there's that difference in the conference is so great. I just, they got to play the Western Conference's teams more. So that's where I'd be. Well, so what'd you say?
I think they're 23 to 25 wins.
Ooh, I am being too nice.
I mean, I think that they've got a lot of talent, but I don't think Rudy Gay is a number 2 scorer for a team, a number 2 option. And as of right now, he is a number 2 option. I think this team is better with Isaiah Thomas as a number 2 and Rudy Gay as the number 3 option. I think Stauskas is going to look spectacular next to Rudy Gay and DeMarcus Cousins, because you will not be able to collapse on DeMarcus. So I guess that's one thing. that I like. I think that Ben McLemore showed improvement, but you're going to walk into a season, as of right now, the Kings have they have Collison and not another veteran guard on the roster. I mean, you're looking at Ray McCallum, which I like, but again, he has so little NBA experience. You've got Ben McLemore, who has 82 games of NBA experience, and it was a complete disaster. He did get better in Summer League. And then you have, Stauskas, who's never played an NBA game. And if you're walking in with literally like 128 games between McLemore and McCallum, and then whatever Darren Collison has played in his career as your 4-guard set, I don't know. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. I think they needed a veteran shooting guard to bring in to sort of help this group move forward, and so I've got question marks there. Clearly we've got question marks at the power forward position. Is Jason Thompson going to be part of this roster? There are a lot of questions, and they still. Pete D'Alessandro is always a guy who likes to have a behemoth on the bench. He loves Timothy Mozgov. He loves Aaron Gray. He likes having like Simbular, but a guy who's an actual NBA talent. Simbular at this point is not an NBA talent, unfortunately. But that's kind of. This is a scary team right now, and I don't mean scary as in scary they could win 55 games. I mean scary as in this thing could come undone quickly, and then you risk the potential for Rudy Gay to walk out the door, and who knows where this thing goes. So I'm not as optimistic as you.
My last word is Rudy Gay was great last year because his touches were reduced and he got the ball in efficient spots. The minute you give the ball to Rudy Gay and tell him to start operating around the perimeter, you start to get Toronto Rudy Gay. If that starts happening, watch out. But if he can hold it together and he can continue to get to his spots and say Stauskas can be the guy that I think he is, and Ray McCallum plays like the guy that I think he is, which is a solid NBA backup, and say Collison can just stay out of the way, then I think maybe there's some hope for optimism. But 31 games, I think, is my over-under.
Wow. All right. Well, hey, that's going to do it for this episode of the Cowbell Kingdom podcast. Thank you very much to Michael Malone, head coach of the Sacramento Kings, for popping in for the first segment. Aaron Bruski joining me as a co-host in the second segment. Very good stuff. Aaron, thanks so much for coming in.
Anytime.
All right.
Give me a call.
That's right. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Cowbell Kingdom podcast. Join us next week. I'm sure that Mr. Jonathan Santiago will be back, probably still in Las Vegas from Team USA camp, where we will have everything DeMarcus Cousins covered next week. For James Ham, actually I am James Ham. For Aaron Bruski, I am James Ham. Thank you for listening to the Cowbell Kingdom podcast.